You want to know what separates those who break under pressure from those who break through it. It's not talent. It's not how many degrees they have. It's not the money in their bank account. It's mindset, that quiet voice in your head that says, I will not react. I will respond. I will not chase approval. I will stand grounded. I will not crumble. I will command. You don't win battles by reacting emotionally. You win by mastering your internal world. Most people believe power lies in aggression, in being louder, faster, and more dominant. But the truth is, the most powerful individuals in any room are not the ones yelling. They are the ones who can keep their mind steady when everyone else is spiraling. Your mindset is your ultimate armor. It is the invisible shield that guards your peace, protects your confidence, and makes you unstoppable in situations that would break most people. Emotion without direction is chaos. Emotion with control is power. Every day life throws curveballs. You wake up with plans, but the world has its own ideas. You get blindsided by news you didn't expect. People you trusted disappoint you. Situations unravel. And in those moments, if your response is dictated purely by emotion, rage, fear, anxiety, you lose your grip. You say things you regret. You make choices that backfire. You drain yourself chasing things that were never worth your energy. That's the price of an untrained mind. That's the cost of making emotion your pilot instead of your compass. But when your mindset is sharp, calm, and intentional, everything changes. You don't get dragged into every storm. You don't let someone else's chaos become your atmosphere. You don't flinch, you assess. You slow your breath, clear your vision, and you ask the question that changes everything. What does this situation require of me? Not, what do I feel like doing? But, what will serve me? That shift alone, switching from reactive to strategic, builds unshakable strength. There are people who crumble at the first sign of criticism. Someone questions their worth, and they spiral. There are people who panic the moment plans don't go their way. They lash out, they blame, they collapse internally. Not because they're weak, but because they never trained their mind to pause, to reflect, to stabilize before speaking. And the truth is, if you don't control your mindset, someone else will. The world is full of people, platforms, algorithms, even media designed to hijack your focus and steer your emotions. If your inner state isn't fortified, you will live at the mercy of every external trigger. Think about soldiers. Not the ones in movies, the real ones. The ones who walk into live, fire zones with steady hands. Do you think they let emotion drive them? No, they train. Every single day. Not just physically, but mentally. They don't hope for calm. They become calm. Because in the heat of conflict, hesitation kills, emotion kills, reactivity kills. The same applies to your daily life. If you don't armor up internally, you will bleed every time life scratches you. So how do you build that mindset? First, stop outsourcing your stability. Stop saying things like, they made me angry, or, this situation ruined my day. Nothing has the power to control you unless you hand it the keys. Take your power back. Start by observing your mind. When something triggers you, pause. Watch what you want to do. Want to explode, stay silent instead. Want to escape, sit with it instead. Want to blame, take ownership instead. Every time you do this, you're forging mental steel. Then, train your breath. Your breath is the remote control for your nervous system. When stress hits, your breathing changes before your thoughts do. So the next time you feel adrenaline, tension, panic, stop. Breathe deep. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. This tells your body, we're not in danger. And when your body calms down, your mind clears up. That's how you rewire yourself for control. Next, discipline your focus. Where your attention goes, your emotion flows. So if you keep focusing on what's wrong, what's missing, who hurt you, or what might go badly, you will live in a state of internal chaos. But if you shift your attention toward what you can do, what you can build, and who you can become, everything starts to align. Confidence is a byproduct of focus. Not the kind of fake confidence that comes from pretending, but the kind that comes from mastering your mind and proving to yourself, again and again, that you are in charge of your own state. Also, learn to delay your emotional reactions. Most people speak too quickly, they act too quickly, they post too quickly, and in doing so they reveal their weakness. They show they have no filter, no pause, no protection between stimulus and response. But the most powerful people, they are slow to anger. They are silent when others would scream. They listen more than they speak. That is not weakness. That is strength on full display. If someone can push you into panic or rage, they own you. And when you allow someone to own your emotions, they can destroy you without touching you. Mindset also comes from the stories you tell yourself. Most people walk around repeating narratives like, I'm not good enough. I always mess up. People like me never win. And the brain, being obedient, follows those instructions. It scans the world for proof of that belief and delivers evidence to support it. That's how self-sabotage is born. But when you shift that internal script to, I control how I respond, I am not reactive, I am responsible, I don't need to prove my power, I preserve it, then the brain obeys that too. It filters reality through a lens of strength. That's how warriors think. Not from ego, but from precision. Your mind is your most sacred ground. You cannot let it be polluted. You cannot let the outside world flood it with noise and fear and insecurity. You must guard it like it holds your future, because it does. Everything you want to build, become, and experience begins in your mind. If you train it to stay grounded when things go wrong, you'll rise where others sink. If you train it to stay composed under attack, you'll make decisions that multiply your power instead of sabotaging it. If you train it to stay clear when others cloud the air with drama and doubt, you'll find peace where others only find problems. So no, this is not about suppressing your emotions. It's about mastering your response to them. It's about choosing to respond, not react. It's about building a mindset so calm, so disciplined, and so clear that even when life pushes you, you don't break, you don't beg, you don't panic, you lead. That's what real power looks like. And it starts in your mind. Train it like your life depends on it. Because it does. Staying calm doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're in control. People often confuse calmness with passivity, thinking that if you're not reacting, you're not doing anything. But the most dangerous person in the room is not the one shouting. It's the one sitting in silence, observing everything, calculating, deciding the exact moment to act. That's not passivity. That's precision. Calmness is a strategy. It's a weapon. It's the sign of someone who refuses to give their power away. You can't be calm if you're dependent on external circumstances being peaceful. That's not calmness. That's comfort. And the moment comfort breaks, you break too. True calm is not built in safe spaces. It's built in storms. It's built in pressure. It's built in conflict. It's standing in the middle of the mess and saying, I'm not going to lose myself here. I might not control what's happening, but I control how I carry myself through it. People who lose control are predictable. You can provoke them with a word, a look, or a small inconvenience. That makes them easy to manipulate, easy to defeat. But when someone is calm, you don't know what they're thinking. You can't throw them off. You can't shake them. Calmness gives you the advantage because it keeps your vision clear when others are blinded by emotion. You see options. You make sharper choices. You hold your ground while everyone else is scrambling to find theirs. And calmness is not something you are born with. It's something you build. It takes work. It takes intention. It takes choosing not to react when everything in you wants to explode. It takes pausing when you want to speak, breathing when you want to lash out, standing tall when you want to fall apart. Every time you do that, you reinforce that calmness isn't something you hope for. It's something you train. The calmest people are often the ones who've been through the most. They've seen chaos up close. They've been betrayed. They've been knocked down. And instead of letting those experiences harden them, they used them as training. They stopped looking to the world for peace and became their own source of it. They realized that if they didn't own their emotional state, someone else would. And here's the truth: most people won't say staying calm is hard. It takes more strength to stay calm than to lose control. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can panic. Anyone can lash out. That's easy. That's default behavior. But to sit with your discomfort, to hold your response, to feel the pressure, and not let it dictate your actions, that's discipline. That's mastery. And that kind of mastery puts you in a position of power in any situation. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. The louder someone is, the more desperate they are to be heard. But when you're calm, when your energy is centered, you don't need external validation. You're not moved by other people's opinions. You're not desperate to be understood. You don't need to be the loudest. You just need to be the most grounded. That presence alone commands respect. People often try to bait you into losing control. They'll push your buttons just to see if they still work. And if they do, they'll keep pressing. But when you stay calm, when you refuse to react, when you meet provocation with silence or a measured response, they lose that power over you. And eventually, they stop trying. Because calmness sets a boundary that says, I don't argue at your level. I don't fight for attention. I don't sacrifice my peace for your chaos. And sometimes, your calmness will offend people. It will frustrate them. It will expose the storm inside them. People who live in chaos can't understand those who live in stillness. But that's not your concern. Your job is not to match their energy. Your job is to protect yours. Because calmness doesn't just help you win battles, it helps you avoid them altogether. You start choosing your conflicts wisely. You stop fighting for things that don't matter. You start showing up in your life with clarity and strength, instead of confusion and fatigue. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. You still feel things deeply. You still get angry. You still care. But you learn not to act on every feeling the moment it hits. You learn to sit with your emotions and let them inform you, not control you. You learn that feeling something doesn't mean it deserves a reaction. That's what separates the impulsive from the powerful. There will be moments when everything in you wants to scream, to slam the door, to make your pain known. And sometimes you might. We're all human. But the more you practice calmness, the more you realize that peace is worth more than pride. That not every opinion deserves your energy. That not every battle is yours to fight. That your time, your mental space, your peace, those are sacred, and you don't give them away cheaply. When you show up calm in a world that's addicted to reaction, you become a force. You become the one people look to when things fall apart. You become the anchor in chaos, the steady hand in uncertainty. And that kind of presence can't be faked. It's earned. Through restraint, through reflection, through the daily decision to choose peace over power and control over chaos. And if you keep showing up that way, everything changes. Your relationships improve. Your reputation grows. Your ability to influence, lead, and impact others multiplies. Because people trust those who stay calm. They follow those who remain composed. They feel safe around those who don't unravel when the pressure rises. You don't need to be feared to be respected. You need to be consistent. You need to be intentional. You need to be able to sit in discomfort without crumbling. That's what earns respect. That's what builds authority, not noise, not anger, not intensity, calmness, precision, self-command, and most importantly, when you are calm, you protect your health. Stress, panic, reactivity, they burn your energy, damage your focus, and break down your body. But calmness heals. It restores. It gives you space to breathe, to think, to choose. It gives you clarity in a world full of distraction. It keeps your nervous system balanced. It allows you to show up for your life from a place of strength, not survival. So when the moment comes, and it always does, when things don't go as planned, when someone tries to pull you into their chaos, when the pressure builds and the world watches to see if you'll lose it, remember this: staying calm is not weakness. It is the highest expression of strength. Because anyone can react, but only the disciplined can remain composed. Only the powerful can stay still. Real confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to declare itself to the world. It walks in silently, holds the space, and changes the energy in the room without saying a word. You see, most people confuse arrogance with confidence. They think if someone speaks the loudest, takes up the most space, dominates the conversation, that they must be confident. But that's not confidence. That's performance. And performance fades when pressure hits. True confidence, the kind that's unshakable and deeply rooted, is quiet. It's still. It doesn't beg for attention because it doesn't need it. It doesn't announce itself because it already knows who it is. Confidence that's real is built in the dark, in the silence, when no one's watching. It's built through action, through consistency, through making promises to yourself and keeping them. It's not about how many people clap for you. It's about how often you showed up when no one else would. That's where self-trust comes from. And self-trust is the foundation of all real confidence. Because when you trust yourself, you stop needing others to approve of you. You stop needing to convince the world that you belong. You just do. You exist in your own lane, unshaken, undistracted. Real confidence is born from knowing that you can handle what life throws at you. Not because you're invincible, but because you've been through enough to know that you can figure things out. You've failed, you've fallen, and you've gotten back up. That's why people who have been broken and rebuilt themselves walk differently. They carry themselves with quiet certainty. They don't need to be loud. Their energy says everything their words don't. Confidence doesn't look like needing to be right all the time. It looks like listening. It looks like observing more than you speak. It looks like being open to learning. Because when you're truly confident, you're not threatened by other people's strengths. You're not jealous of their progress. You're not in competition with anyone but your old self. You celebrate others because their success doesn't take anything away from you. That's the kind of internal strength that can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. People who are insecure tend to overcompensate. They seek validation constantly. They chase applause, likes, compliments, status. And the moment they don't get it, they crumble. Their identity is built on shaky ground, on how others perceive them. But confidence that's real doesn't rely on perception. It doesn't crumble under silence. It's not afraid of being misunderstood. It doesn't shift based on opinions. It's rooted in values, in character, in resilience. It's internal, and that makes it untouchable. The loudest voice isn't always the strongest one. In fact, the most powerful voices often come from those who speak with intention, who choose their words carefully, who don't waste energy trying to prove their worth. You don't need to tell people how great you are if your presence already says it. Confidence is not about selling yourself. It's about being yourself, without apology, without exaggeration, without neediness. You simply show up fully present and fully you. In a world obsessed with performance, real confidence is rebellion. It's rebellion against the need to be constantly seen and praised. It's the bold choice to be still when everyone else is performing. It's the refusal to shrink for anyone or to inflate for anyone. You stay true to your frequency. That's the quiet power of someone who knows their value. They don't dilute themselves to fit in. They don't shift to avoid rejection. They are whole and they walk that way. Confidence also means knowing your boundaries. It means being able to say no without guilt. It means walking away from what disrespects your peace, even if it looks good on paper. It means choosing self-respect over attention. And sometimes, it means being misunderstood because you refused to explain your worth to people who never valued it. But real confidence never negotiates with disrespect. It never chases what it deserves. It attracts. It allows. It commands without control. And here's something important: confidence is quiet, but it's not passive. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you know when to speak and when to stay silent. You pick your battles. You respond, you don't react. You don't get pulled into drama. You don't entertain chaos. Your calm becomes your superpower. Your restraint becomes your strength, and your ability to hold yourself when everything is falling apart. That's where people start to wonder, who is this person? How are they so composed? How are they not breaking? Confidence is also visible in how you carry yourself. Your posture, your eye contact, the way you walk into a room, the way you handle discomfort, the way you respond to failure, the way you treat people who can't do anything for you. That's where your self-worth is on display. It's not in how many accomplishments you list. It's in how you embody those accomplishments with grace, humility, and quiet pride. Not arrogance. Not entitlement. Just presence. And the truth is, confidence grows every time you choose discipline over impulse. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself. Every time you face fear and move forward anyway. Every time you choose to rise after a fall. You don't need to pretend to be fearless to be confident. You just need to stop letting fear control your decisions. That shift, taking action despite the fear, is what builds your confidence brick by brick. Until one day, you realize you're standing on a foundation so solid, nothing external can shake you. Real confidence is sustainable. It doesn't need highs to stay strong. It doesn't crash during lows. It stays consistent. Because it's not based on outcomes. It's based on identity. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. You know what you've survived. That knowing is more powerful than any spotlight, any applause, any validation. It's internal. And when your confidence is internal, the external world loses its control over you. So don't chase the loudness. Don't fall into the trap of trying to look confident. Instead, become it. Build it through silence, through repetition, through showing up when it's hard, through choosing integrity when it's inconvenient, through becoming someone you respect, whether anyone notices or not. Because when you can stand alone, stand firm, and still stand tall, that's the kind of confidence that will carry you for the rest of your life. Life doesn't ask for your permission before it tests you. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't care if you had a plan, if you're tired, if you were finally starting to feel peace again. It just hits. And when it does, everything changes in a second. That's the reality most people aren't prepared for. They move through life assuming calm means everything will stay easy. But calm is not something you find. Calm is something you become. It's a decision, a mental posture, a discipline that says, no matter what happens outside of me, I'm still in control of what happens inside me. Your response to what happens is where your true power lives. You can't stop betrayal. You can't prevent failure. You can't avoid pain forever. But you can control how you carry yourself through it. You can choose not to let the world dictate your mood, your thoughts, or your energy. That choice, over and over, builds unshakable confidence. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Every moment you're awake, you are given one sacred freedom, the ability to choose your response. That's it. That's your greatest weapon. Not your talent, not your education, not your resources. Your response. Because two people can go through the same storm and come out with two completely different outcomes. One drowns in the waves. The other learns to navigate. The difference isn't luck. The difference is mindset. The one who survives is the one who understands, I might not choose the wave, but I always choose whether I stand, sink, or swim. You see this play out every day. Someone gets a setback and breaks. Another person faces the same setback and builds. The difference, response. The first person panicked, blamed, spiraled. The second paused, assessed, adjusted. One collapsed. The other recalibrated. That is what separates leaders from followers, warriors from worriers, those who build from those who beg. Your response creates your reality. It shapes how you move through conflict, failure, and even success. You don't rise by avoiding pain. You rise by responding to it with precision. You don't become resilient by hoping life gets easier. You become resilient by standing up every time it gets harder. When the world pushes, you don't flinch. You don't collapse into excuses. You lean in. You take a breath. You ask yourself, what does this moment require from me? Not what you feel like doing, but what is required. That shift, from emotion to intention, is where power begins. Most people respond out of fear. They get triggered, they react, and they let their emotions take over. But fear-driven reactions always lead to regret. Always. They pull you away from your values, from your clarity, from your higher self. But when you pause, even for a second, you create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you reclaim your authority. You reclaim your clarity. You remember that just because you feel something doesn't mean it deserves your full energy. You can acknowledge it without obeying it. Think about the most composed people you know. They're not cold. They're not robotic. They feel deeply. But they don't live at the mercy of those feelings. They don't react to every provocation. They observe, they breathe, and then they act. That's the difference. Reaction is impulsive. Response is strategic. When you learn to respond instead of react, you become someone people trust, someone people follow. Because you're not just surviving the storm, you're leading through it. And here's the truth: life is going to test you in the moments you least expect. People will betray you. Plans will fall apart. You'll get hit with challenges that feel unfair and relentless. And in those moments, your response is everything. Will you fold? Will you fight everything emotionally? Or will you take a breath, stay calm, and step forward anyway? Staying calm doesn't mean you ignore your emotions. It means you refuse to let them drive the car. You recognize them. You respect them. But you don't let them control you. You don't scream just because you're angry. You don't retreat just because you're scared. You don't give up just because it hurts. You keep going, with clarity, with purpose, and with power. People who have trained themselves to respond rather than react are dangerous in the best way. They're not easily manipulated. They don't crumble under pressure. They don't become someone else just to survive. They know who they are. They know what they stand for, and they show up that way even when the pressure mounts. That's what makes them powerful. Not their image, not their resume, not their performance, but their consistency in the middle of chaos. The truth is, you are most powerful when you are calm in the face of adversity. Not numb, not indifferent, but composed. Because calmness allows you to see clearly. It gives you access to options, to logic, to strength. Panic narrows your vision. Calm expands it. In calmness, you make smarter decisions. You communicate more effectively. You lead more powerfully. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. And don't be mistaken. People will try to shake you. The world will try to push you into reactivity. Not because it's evil, but because that's how the world functions. It rewards noise. It stirs drama. It thrives on urgency and outrage. But you don't have to be part of that system. You can stand rooted. You can say, I choose to respond with power, not react with panic. In every interaction, every challenge, you have the power to bring presence. Presence is your ability to respond intentionally. It's the energy you bring into a space, a conversation, a decision. And presence only comes when you've mastered your response. When you've trained your mind not to collapse under stress. When you've taught yourself to pause, breathe, think, and then move. So ask yourself, how are you showing up right now? Are you reactive, or are you responsive? Are you driven by pressure, or are you guided by clarity? Are you letting circumstances define your state, or are you choosing to lead yourself no matter what's happening around you? That choice, repeated daily, is how transformation happens. It's how confidence is built. It's how leadership is born. Not in grand gestures, but in those small moments when you chose to stay calm instead of exploding. When you chose to think instead of react. When you chose to lead yourself instead of blaming others. Life will keep testing you. That's not going to change. But you can change. You can become someone who meets adversity with authority. Who meets pressure with poise. Who meets the storm and says, I've been trained for this. That's what it means to be powerful. Not because everything around you is calm, but because you are. People will try to shake you. That's a fact of life. Whether it's subtle manipulation, passive-aggressive behavior, or direct confrontation, there will always be someone trying to pull you out of your peace, out of your power, and into their chaos. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. But it doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to recognize when it's happening and make the decision to stay rooted. Because when you lose your composure, when you react on impulse, when you let someone push you emotionally, they've already won. You handed them your power, and most of the time, you didn't even realize it. You don't need to engage with everything. You don't need to react to everyone's opinion. You don't need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The moment you step into someone else's emotional chaos, you've given them control. You've let them steer your behavior. And they will keep pressing until you break, until you explode, until you give them the satisfaction of seeing you unravel. That's how they win. But when you don't take the bait, when you remain still, silent, and calm, that's when your power becomes undeniable. There are people who thrive on conflict. They provoke to gain attention. They stir drama to feel powerful. And the more reactive you are, the more they feed on it. They know what to say. They know which buttons to push. And the more you respond emotionally, the more they know they own space inside your mind. That's why your composure is your shield. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not everyone deserves a response. Some people are just looking for proof that they can control you. Deny them that satisfaction. You have to understand that your peace threatens people who can't find their own. Your silence frustrates those who expect a performance. Your calmness, your refusal to stoop to their level, exposes the chaos within them. It reveals their lack of discipline, their emotional instability, their need for external control. And they don't like that. So they will provoke harder. They will push further. Because the louder your stillness speaks, the more they feel their own lack of power. But that's not your problem to solve. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe anyone your emotional energy. You don't need to prove that you're right, that you're good, or that you're strong. Your restraint proves it. Your stillness proves it. The way you carry yourself under pressure, that's the real statement. That's what makes people pay attention. That's what separates you from the masses. Staying unshaken doesn't mean you're emotionless. It means you've matured past the point of letting people control your state. It means you've recognized that your emotional energy is sacred. It's not to be spent on every provocation, every argument, every petty opinion. It's to be invested wisely into your goals, your growth, your discipline, and your inner peace. Your evolution will expose people. The more you grow, the more uncomfortable it makes those who refuse to grow with you. Your elevation highlights their stagnation. Your calmness highlights their anxiety. Your emotional control highlights their impulsiveness. And it's not because you're trying to make them feel small. It's simply because you're showing up differently. And not everyone is ready for that version of you. You'll find that people who once praised you will start criticizing you. People who once supported you will start distancing themselves. And it's not because you did anything wrong. It's because your stillness, your discipline, your ability to remain composed under pressure, those things challenge them. You become a mirror for their chaos. And most people can't stand to see themselves clearly. So instead of rising to meet you, they'll try to pull you back down. Don't go. Don't shrink. Don't dim your power to make others comfortable. Let them be uncomfortable. Let your presence challenge them. Let your peace irritate the ones who feed on drama. Let your refusal to engage with nonsense make them question their own behavior. You're not here to please. You're here to lead. And sometimes, leading means walking alone. Sometimes, it means being misunderstood. Sometimes, it means staying silent when you could have said everything. The higher you rise, the less you speak. The more composed you become, the less you need to react. Because you start to understand that not everything requires your energy. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some battles are traps. Some people are distractions. And if you don't guard your energy, you'll spend your entire life defending your peace instead of building your future. There's a reason the most powerful people in the world say the least. There's a reason the most disciplined people have few reactions. Because they've learned that attention is currency. And giving it to the wrong things will bankrupt you. So they stay focused. They stay intentional. They respond only when necessary. And that's why they remain in control of themselves, of situations, of outcomes. Your greatest power is your ability to remain steady when everyone else is falling apart. Your greatest advantage is not in how loud you are, but in how little you allow others to shake you. Your stability is a threat to anyone who benefits from your confusion. Your clarity is a danger to those who thrive on manipulation. Your silence speaks volumes. Your peace is loud. And when you move like that, grounded, focused, undisturbed, people notice. They don't always understand it, but they respect it, because they know it's real. You don't need to fight to prove your strength. You need to walk in it. You don't need to speak to show your wisdom. You need to live it. And you don't need to explain yourself to anyone who isn't asking from a place of respect. Let your actions speak. Let your energy speak. Let your presence speak. The people who are meant to rise with you will never feel threatened by your evolution. They will be inspired by it. They will honor your boundaries, respect your peace, and grow alongside you. But the ones who can't handle your stillness, your emotional control, your refusal to react, those are the ones who were never meant to stay. So let them fall away. Let the noise pass. Let the distractions fade. And keep rising. Keep choosing presence over panic. Keep choosing clarity over chaos. Keep choosing power over provocation. Because in the end, you don't need to be louder than the storm. You just need to be stronger than what tries to pull you into it. Everything external in your life can be taken from you. Your money, your relationships, your job, your status, your possessions. All of it can disappear in an instant. But the one thing no one can take from you, unless you hand it over, is your mindset. That is yours. That is your domain. That is your battlefield and your sanctuary. And how you protect it, how you shape it, how you train it, that determines everything else in your life. People walk around as if they are powerless, as if their circumstances dictate who they are and what they can become. But that's not the truth. The truth is, you are what you repeatedly tell yourself you are. The most powerful battles you will ever fight won't be with other people. They'll be with your own thoughts, your own doubt, your own habits, your own fears. That is the war. And the moment you take full ownership of your mindset is the moment you stop being a victim of your surroundings and start becoming the architect of your future. Your mindset is the lens through which you see the world. If the lens is clouded with fear, you'll see threats where there are opportunities. If the lens is distorted by insecurity, you'll see competition where there's collaboration. If it's tainted by resentment, you'll see betrayal even in loyalty. That's why your number one priority must be protecting the clarity of that lens. Because if you lose your mindset, you lose your ability to navigate, to see clearly, to respond wisely, to lead with purpose. You train your body with workouts. You train your mind with intention. You get mentally strong the same way you get physically strong, through repetition, resistance, and recovery. You build resilience by doing the hard things, by sitting with discomfort, by leaning into challenges that stretch you. You don't grow by avoiding the tough parts of life. You grow by facing them head on and choosing not to be broken by them. Every setback, every failure, every loss, it's not there to define you. It's there to refine your mindset. It's there to force you to choose, will I let this make me bitter, or will I let it make me better? The problem is, most people wait for life to get easier before they commit to changing their thinking. They say, I'll be positive when things are stable. I'll be focused when I have less stress. I'll believe in myself when I finally succeed. That's backward. You don't get the mindset after the breakthrough. You get the breakthrough because you built the mindset. You decide to stay calm in the storm. You decide to stay focused when distractions are screaming. You decide to believe in yourself even when there's no evidence yet. That's where the shift happens. The people who win in life, in business, in relationships, in personal growth, are not the ones who had perfect conditions. They're the ones who developed the internal tools to handle imperfect ones. They stayed grounded when others lost their way. They held their vision when others gave up. They showed up with discipline when motivation was nowhere to be found. That's mindset. And it's not a gift. It's a decision you make every single day. You've got to be aware of what you're feeding your mind. You wouldn't put garbage into your body and expect to feel energized. So why do so many people feed their mind with negativity, doubt, comparison, distraction, and then expect to feel strong and focused? You have to guard your inputs like your life depends on it, because it does. What you consume becomes what you think. What you think becomes what you believe. What you believe becomes how you act. And how you act creates your entire life. Mindset is not just about thinking positive. It's about thinking powerfully. It's about thinking like someone who takes responsibility instead of blaming. Like someone who sees possibilities instead of obstacles. Like someone who adapts instead of collapses. This isn't about ignoring problems. It's about becoming bigger than them. It's about realizing that no matter what happens around you, you still get to decide how you respond. And your response creates momentum, or it creates regret. You choose which. When you train your mindset, You become someone who doesn't need perfect conditions to thrive. You become adaptable. You become calm in crisis. You become solution-oriented. You become someone others rely on, not because you have all the answers, but because you have the composure and clarity to find them. That's rare. And that's powerful. The world will constantly try to tell you who you should be. It will throw opinions at you, criticism, rejection, temptation, noise. And if you don't have a strong mindset, you'll get pulled in every direction. You'll chase approval. You'll fear failure. You'll get stuck in loops of overthinking and hesitation. But when your mind is trained, when you know who you are and what you stand for, you become untouchable. Not because you're immune to pain, but because you're anchored in purpose. You're not just protecting your thoughts, you're protecting your future. Because every thought is a seed. And if you're planting doubt, fear, and excuses daily, don't be surprised when nothing strong grows. But if you plant discipline, vision, belief, and resilience, your life will bear fruit others only dream about. It starts in the mind. It always has. You will be tested. People will misunderstand you. Life will throw unexpected obstacles at you. But no one can touch your mindset unless you open the door. You can lose everything and rebuild if your mind is solid. But if you lose your mindset, even having everything will feel like nothing. So train it, sharpen it, fortify it like your future depends on it. Because it does. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need life to be easy. You don't need the perfect plan. You need a resilient, focused, powerful mind. One that doesn't fall apart when things get hard. One that doesn't shrink when it's challenged. One that leads, even when there's no applause, no validation, no confirmation. That kind of mindset is rare. That kind of mindset is magnetic. And that kind of mindset, it can't be taken from you. Not now, not ever.